In 2019, a professional player from South Korea was suspended for one game, fined $600, and was placed on 20 hours of community service for being toxic in ranked games. This is actually very common. Pro players get fined all the time if they are discovered to have been toxic in solo queue. But that is just the act of saying mean things in the chat. What happens to players that are caught cheating? From players who were caught DDoSing their opponents, to players who shamelessly used scripting programs to rank up in solo queue, today we find out if pro players can get away with cheating.
I would like to say that I'm innocent until proven guilty.
Okay, good.
But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by Porofessor. Porofessor is a useful overlay app for League of Legends built to help you play better. From the moment you're in Champ Select, the app is already assisting you, automatically providing you the correct runes and item builds for whichever champion you select. Then in-game, Porofessor is constantly keeping track of your performance and letting you know where you could improve, or just letting you know that you're killing it. Additionally, among their many features, the app provides you with in-game jungle timers on the map, showing you exactly when camps are respawning. And the in-game spell tracker, where, self-explanatory, if you see an enemy flash, you click flash on your spell tracker and now you have a more or less accurate cooldown of that spell. This is just a portion of how Porofessor can assist you. And of course, Porofessor is completely safe to use and complies with Riot's terms. So if you're ready to start improving in your future games, click the link in the description and download Porofessor today. Let's get things started with one of the greatest redemption stories in esports. Around 2013, Jensen, who was going by the name Incarnation, was a good up-and-coming player. But there were serious rumors and accusations that he was DDoSing people in his games. Super quick explanation of DDoSing. A distributed denial of service attack consists of acquiring someone's IP address and overwhelming it with loads of data and internet traffic from other servers. This clogs up your internet connection. So hypothetically, if you were to be in the middle of a game when this happened, you would 100% be unable to continue playing. And unfortunately, during this time, many players and streamers had to be cautious of being DDoSed, as it was a lot easier and accessible to do back then than it is today. People were even uploading tutorials to YouTube, giving simple explanations on how to do this.
Hey guys, Aaron here today from Accelerated Bomb. I'm gonna tell you, this will tell you their IP, and from here you can do whatever you want with it. DDoS, boot offline, whatever you want.
Anyways, Jensen always denied these accusations. But on January 23rd, 2013, Riot Games made an announcement permanently suspending Jensen from professional play and from owning an account in general. As a result of this player's history of DDoS activity, abusive behavior, and poor sportsmanship, the player behavior team has issued a lifetime ban on Jensen. His account has been permanently banned, and all future accounts will be permabanned on site. Despite Jensen's denial, the evidence Riot used to move forward with his suspension was this end of game screenshot where Jensen is being toxic and threatens his teammate by first sharing his IP address and then his general real-life location. However, after 2 years, Riot re-evaluated the situation and he was given a second chance. Riot states that their reason was due to him showing positive and good behavior during this time. Though when the news came out, not everyone agreed with his ban being reversed. To this day, you can find comments from people that thought that someone who got caught DDoSing should not have been given a second chance. But regardless of these opinions, today Jensen's story is unironically one of the greatest redemption arcs. In 2013, Jensen would be permanently banned by Riot Games. 7 years later, he would go on to be one of the most successful esports players ever. In 2020, he signed on to Team Liquid for a 3-year deal valued at $4.3 million. That's $1.4 million a year for playing League of Legends, the record highest salary in the LCS. Now moving along, not all cheaters get redemption arcs. In July of last year, the streamer Tyler1 discovered a player on his team that was intentionally allowing the enemy team to win. But after looking closely at their account, he noticed that this player was win trading. Specifically, his account name was R5 Jungle, and in every single game, this player was also accompanied by another player named Choco Vanille. However, R5 Jungle would play differently depending on two situations. The first being that if he was on Choco Vanille's team, he would try his best to win the game. But if he found himself on the opposing team of Choco Vanille, he would intentionally play poorly so that Choco Vanille could win. And this unironically went on for almost 50 games.
6 games in a row, no duo queue over 4 days. 2-day break. Guess who's in the game? R5 Jungle. This game right here. A win. Wait, every single game on this account is duoed or a win trade, actually. R5 Jungle. R5 Jungle. Wait, bro, it's actually 20 games in a row. 21. 22, 23. It's every single game. And he just runs it down.
By now, if you don't know, Choco Vanille is R5 Jungle's girlfriend. And despite them both shamelessly win trading in public like this, they were actually both actively signed to a Canadian esports organization. She was the team's coach, and R5 Jungle, known as Anticipation, was the team's jungler. However, it gets worse. Despite their behavior, she would even write on her Twitter about how she gets doubted as a gamer because she's a girl. It's rough being doubted for my worth as a woman in esports, but I am surrounded with people that support me and believe in my potential. It's time to believe in myself at last. She would also proudly post her rank achievements.
We are surely not going to our Twitter and tweeting, after months of grinding, I went through tears of joy and guilt, and I have finally reached Masters! And like posting it on Twitter.
The clips of Tyler1 exposing this couple for win trading went quite viral and eventually resulted in their esports team coming out and announcing that they were fired from the team for their behavior in solo queue. And unlike Jensen, there isn't any redemption. After almost a year since being exposed, they've abandoned their social medias and have had no progression in their esports careers. But back to actual redemption stories, this is Bo. Currently a star in the LEC, but just a few years back, he was facing career-ending punishments for alleged match fixing. In 2021, Bo was one of 38 players, coaches, and managers who were all caught up in a match-fixing scandal within the LPL. This resulted in everyone involved receiving severe punishments, including players who were permanently banned from participating in the league. Bo was one of the few players who received a lighter punishment as he helped Riot during their investigation. In simpler terms, he probably snitched, but it's more complicated as he didn't agree to any of the match fixing. Instead, he was coerced into throwing games for others to bet on them, or he would receive negative repercussions. We don't know exactly what threats were made toward him, but in the past, there have been reports of players in other games receiving threats of violence if they didn't throw their games. This was a major issue in StarCraft back in the day. But despite the disaster that this match-fixing scandal was, a couple years later he would go on to be one of the strongest players in the LEC. However, it's also speculated that although his LPL suspension was only 4 months, there's a chance LPL teams weren't keen on signing anyone involved in that scandal. So playing outside of China was one of his better options. Now, this is a situation where you can argue that it's not the player's fault, so he deserved to continue his career. But what would happen if a pro player was caught scripting? In October of 2016, Riot Korea announced the suspension of a professional player named Sign for using, quote, unauthorized programs on his account. This was a player in the Challenger Korea series. It's pretty much the B-League of the LCK. Regardless, a tremendous mistake by the player. For cheating in this manner, he was suspended from competitive play for 20 months. It's not common that situations like this occur, but you can see why. Being suspended for 2 years is essentially career suicide. Riot purposely makes these punishments severe to deter anyone from repeating them in the future. But to be fair, you have to be a silly individual to download and use scripts as a professional player. And to avoid confusion, he didn't cheat in pro games. He was only scripting in his personal solo queue games. In the end, Sainz's suspension officially came to an end on August 16, 2018. It's been almost 5 years, and it would appear that he never returned to League of Legends esports.
A summoner has disconnected.